Okay, so we're continuing with the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, I'm sorry. And we're going to be doing the trial part 2. We are going to be, I think, starting with the jury summation or examination. Is it summation examination? I'm not sure. But I'm excited. This trial has been crazy. I haven't made a single mistake yet. This could be my downfall after I said that. I've considered the defense's counsel request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. Okay, it's both summation examination, bro. I'm an idiot. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. Is he the leader? We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. You could get a concussion, I feel like, if you hit it hard enough, and if the book is heavy. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home soon some pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Bro, old man, are you okay? You're going through a lot, I feel like. Yes, yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. Oh? So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover... Oh, I always get shocked when he does that. No one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. That means I'm afraid that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman? And how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Wait, let me think. I'm gonna think 1 minute. So, I remember that... what was his name? I cannot remember his name. I remembered, but I did not remember. Yes. Rolly Beat, okay? I feel like the lady... I'm not sure, but did they both see her, like, actually the knife poking out of her, like, back or something? Because she might have fallen down, maybe because, again, it's like winter, so she could have fallen down, maybe, or she had some kind of already had, like, an internal, like, no, not a disease, but, like, some kind of condition, and she fell. And Mrs. Beat, she left to go to the police box or something to inform them about this. So couldn't Rolly also be like somebody, because he was alone with the victim, so he could do something, in my opinion. I feel like that's the case. Like, of course, I don't know any other situation. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruto, you have to do it, otherwise this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you're prepared, counsel? Oh yes, my lord. Alright, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. You got it, Ryunosuke. Clearly the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Mrs. Gary Depp? She's a piece of shit. I keep on reminding everyone this. We have a book that disappeared from the Gary Depp's house on the evening of the incident. And the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Oh wait, she could have been knocked out by the book, and and she probably like fell down because of it. And then Rolly might have stabbed her. That might be the case, no? Yes, that's what we have to find. I think I'm going the right way. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Gary Depp and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. Oh, so we can do that with the jurors as well. Jury examination. Defense's rebuttal. Okay, so let's press you.
Hold it!
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book in fact belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said? That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver is about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I have nothing really left to say. I don't think we can convince Bruce fair play. He already has a preconceived notion of us. We can't do anything about it. Okay, let's press her. So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I'm a very modern, metropolitan and rational woman. I don't know about that. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see? Modern, metropolitan and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'll be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'll be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right, I'm glad you omitted rational there. Even if the woman was doing... Okay, wait, let's just press.
Hold it!
But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. Unless there's a fire where it's smoky and you need to smoke it out of the house, you probably open the window. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, you see. But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. Mrs. Gary Depp.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Bro's trying to hit the other guy next to her. Well, he brought it upon himself. He's playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Gary Depp. Never you mind that. The point is, you were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. And I won't have any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Gary Depp's relentless onslaughts. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is. Aww. Okay, now let's ask you. You and the old man always give new information. You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, You know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful? I wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. How the fuck do I jog his memory? Oh no, shit! I pressed the wrong button. Oh my god. We need to demonstrate who apart from Mr. Natsume could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between the assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry? What's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? Oh, wait, is it not normal in Japan to put candles on a cake? Of course no, it was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candies went flying all over the room. Candles, sorry. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. This sounds very much like Miss Garideb. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. That's what I was saying. The windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it. It was devil worship all along. Something about this old man story is playing on my mind for some reason. Wait, so I can probably pit him against him with the old man. Okay, let's pit you both together.
Objection!
These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that, you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'll be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garideb household. Okay, I've said this again. I'm obsessed with Ryonosuke walking like this. I don't know why. I find it so hot. I don't know why. I'm an idiot. And Mr. Garideb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat. Okay, bitch. Pursue.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garideb! Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Man, this lady... I feel bad for Mr. Gerdev. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Narhodo. You have managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadev's former statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'll clean forgotten, but it's true. Okay, so these are new stuff, I guess.
Hold it!
At the point when the victim was attacked on Briar Road, we know there was a small house fire in the Garadev household on the opposite side of the street. Okay, wait, I forgot to read the whole thing, but it's fine. Well, yes, it certainly seems that way. And on account of the smoke, I imagine they would have had the windows wide open in spite of the cold. Wait, I've already pursued it. We also know that Mrs. Garadev was throwing flaming books at her husband. Her husband, who was backed into a corner by the window due to his wife's frenzied attack. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have flown past the man and out of the window. Only what? Only I can't really see how it could have gone all the way over to the other side of the road. That's all. Ah! So I don't really see how I can change my decision, really. Oh, I see. That wasn't enough? What is it going to take to persuade these people? Okay, let's ask you. Now you mentioned it, yes, the window was open at the time. I cleanly forgotten, but it's true.
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garadev told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him, and now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well, you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it. Oh, so the same thing happened to him.
Excuse me.
Oh god. These wives suck. What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I've remembered what it was. That memory I blocked out. Ah. It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garadev or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. I know this is a joke, but if you think about it, I think it's kind of sad. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I couldn't hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did, about an inch deep. Jesus, bro, you're trying to murder your husband. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know, that god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchet, hammers, you name it. Mr. Nahulo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. And she's also dissing Mrs. Gary Dev. Oh god, I love it. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people as well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind, anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. Okay. I can press this as well. Let's press this, and I didn't read all the stuff. Okay, this. Right. Totally understandable. I mean, you can't waste time deciding what to use next, can you? When you feel the way I did, you don't care what it is. You just want it to smash into his face. You see where violence can lead, Mrs. Otto? I'm disheartened to think you might believe me capable of such behavior. Anyway, I have a feeling I might have noticed someone reacting to a little strangely to Mrs. Garadev's remarks just now. Perhaps I missed something while I was preoccupied. Okay, now I can press you. A woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me.
Hold it!
Your wife really threw a kitchen knife at you? That's right, she was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. Your wife must be even beefier than you. And things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a sweetheart, really. I'm so happy for you. If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first that we're so obsessed with in this country was thought up by some clever lads who've been tossed in the Thames a few too many times by their wives. That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement just sounds like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. Who do I press? Like, pit, not press, pit. Do I pit her with him? I'm confused between her and him. Like, which one should I pit against him? I feel like maybe it's her because she was asking for an alternative. So, I'll pit you against each other. Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We have demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garadev's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garadev household to the street below. Eh? What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garadev could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that, if ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of the jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house. But what? What was it? Wait, what was it? The book, probably. I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least, this warrants further investigation. Wait, did she throw a knife at her back? That's insane. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadev household to the scene of the crime was... It could be this. Oh god. I think it's this. Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadev. What now? I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah. Good lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man. Okay, the judge saying man is really funny. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Gaideb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Gaideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who had been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that the book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? She must have picked it up and then a knife came lodging back in her back. Even my missus hasn't got an aim like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end, not right now. Oh my. Oh! Mrs. Gaideb, your answer please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh! Kinda deserved. You should realize that you shouldn't throw objects at your husband. My lord, I wish to change my decision. I am a woman of my word after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman! I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Let's go. We did it. Finally. We did it. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Man, this is like a drama. Hey, yeah. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? Are you man? Are you okay with so much alcohol, Van Zeeks? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. Man, what a waste of alcohol. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing, save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Gaideb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Gaideb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards, that's around 14 meters. But 14 meters? Oh, that's a little further than I imagined. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted that as having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Ah! Never say never. There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecution loves the sound of his own voice. Mr. Zato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for defense. Yes, go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, come on, Siddhartha, you can do it. Juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Gardev, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Yeah, bro, she's not even supposed to be a juror in my opinion. Order, order, order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
This is so funny. And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks? There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before the couple's eyes. And we must assume that they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? Yes, sir! Constable Rollybeat, reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I have been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Okay, I'm now getting sick of this. Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh, and order the witnesses to stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. Constable Beat's report. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Gardev. Believe me, a London bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Gardev house are top-hinge casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on the front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top hinge casement windows? That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You gotta excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir! Sorry, but... What exactly is a top hinge casement window? I was gonna ask the same thing. And you? You cannot excuse ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Phoenix Wright! Phoenix Wright. I remember him. Oh my god. Oh, what was his name? Godot. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Narhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Gardepp's room. Alright, I'll try. The window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top hinge casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see. I'm glad you have rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening? This is all new to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. That can't be. I feel like there's something wrong with what you call. Because again, I'm still going back to like Mrs. Gaidep knew like the whole routine of Natsume's like night routine and all that stuff. So there must be like some other entrance. I feel like something. There's some kind of door which could solve this whole case. Did you see that, Rolly? The young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumpled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. Oh, my lord. Oh, good, another desperate situation. Okay, let's press. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Garrett. Believe me, London Bobby is good for his word.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that is why I can't stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly. Sir? Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh my god. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Garrett? Oh, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'm very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. I hope you'll take back some tales of London Bobby and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'll be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you, I'll try. A small folding model identifies London Bobbies and contains the rules of conduct to which they must adhere. Okay, let me check the case files. Principles of policing. A policeman will try to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Any crime, metropolitan police regulations. Any crimes fall under the oh my god, why can I say jurisdiction of the beat in which they're discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Okay, let's ask about this. By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see. So they're restricted to as to how much they open. And therefore anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. It would have been so hard for somebody to mention this top hinge casement thing before. Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Gary Depp's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Okay, let's ask what's going on here. Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat? Sorry? You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Wait, Rolly, did you drag it so that you don't have to do the work? Drag her over there? Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beat. Huh? Oh, yeah, yes, that's right. That's the reason why I was helping out by interviewing the occupants of the Gary Depp household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir. That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Gary Depp's household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Gary Depp's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Narholo. I'll take care of it immediately. The victim was found lies just outside Constable's beat. Oh my gosh. And now it's my turn, I think. If anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark. Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky, looking for our lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can't it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't have actually seen any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right? That's right, yes. If I had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. Inosuke is just like me. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eyes off the off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report? That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Gaideb household, so the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? No, it's not possible. Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. He's lying. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really, what's she doing? I'm cross-examining you, I have to doubt you. Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. No! Oh, you might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you? Yes, Mrs. Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you do desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. The Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's words count for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that. My rule, he won't. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? Okay, I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Okay, we can. Is this new? I think this is new.
Hold it!
Mrs. Beat, nobody's questioning what you have told us. I saw it. I did that evening. I saw it clearly. The little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. Ah. And I know what I didn't see as well. Oh, speaking of this, I'm the biggest dumbass of the century, okay? It said 19th century all this time, and my brain, I don't know why, has been seeing it as 20th century. And because of that, I was thinking of because in the 20th century, that's where both the world wars happened. So I'm like, but I'm thinking about it, and I was thinking 19, I don't know why I was thinking, I was looking 19th as the 20th century. So this was before the world wars, oh my god, I it literally, I don't know, I was thinking about Ace Attorney in my bed, and I was thinking about it, and then I was like, 19th century. Oh shit, why was I thinking it's the 20th century? They were saying the 19th century, but my brain went to this 20th century. I am the biggest dumbass of the century I've seen. Oh god, I'm astonished by my brain. I don't know what to say. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh yes, well that's a little embarrassing really. I always ended up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross. Let's pursue. Constable Beat, is there a problem? Hey, wake up, dude. No sir, no problem, sir. Did your wife's remarks just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all. You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. The bouquet? Sorry? What bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and pennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I forgot all about it until just now. Had you, my darling. Ah! Huh? Ah, oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh, what was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mr. Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. And it was in a dark spot where the street lights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on? Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably? That's right, silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time, I can't think of how it got there, I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Broly bought me with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary with old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, ready to come by the flower. According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Gary Depp household. In front of the Gary Depp's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. Okay, the shock of the... But it's a symbol of our love. Let me examine. Okay. An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. Ah, this is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. Do you not take any interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Oh god. Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example. Bro is just hungry all the time. Okay, let's see what's here. It's very stylish paper the flowers wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Ah, Sato-san, you do love your cakes. Aw, these two are so cute. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief. Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beat. I didn't take my autograph for 1 minute. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you make of all this? Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Gaideb was hiding something from us, but it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. Okay, I have to find now. I'm not very sure. Okay, so I have... I know what happened in like but I don't know what to present to explain how I think. I know that he probably shifted the body. And that's why the bouquet of roses, not bouquet of roses, a rose was still there. I'm not sure. This might be my downfall. Oh no. Okay, I'm going to present this.
Objection!
Please let this be the one. You claim Constable Beat. There was nothing to report. Okay, God, thank God. There was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. What? What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rory didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Gaideb's book. Mr. Gaideb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street, but in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Gaideb's house. There is no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. Let's go. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says, withering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good, Mrs. Gaideb's come around. Shut the fuck up, Mrs. Gaideb. You have made this complicated, this case so complicated because of your marital argument, which was more like trying to murder your husband, to be very honest. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Gaideb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. It's Rolly. It's Rolly. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? Rolly.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense! Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. Beat, You said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection.
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Ah, well...
Objection.
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well? But your accusations lack one very important thing. Motive, are you gonna ask? The motive was that he didn't want to, he wanted to go out for his wedding anniversary, but if it was on his beat, then he would have to have done the investigation, which he doesn't want to do. So he wouldn't have been able to go for that meal, so that's why. It's a very stupid reasoning, but that's what. You claim the crime scene was tampered with, but there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime: to hide something. That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. Unless I'm completely stupid. If I'm stupid, then... I mean, I am stupid. But if I'm more stupider than I thought, then eh. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense. You've offered no motive for the alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. I have motive. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against the London police officer. If you are mistaken, I am sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Let's go. Renosuke, let's go. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell, I think. Let me save. I think it's where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, but the thing is, Patricia, you're kind of stupid as well. So you probably mixed directions. So probably that's the reason. As if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What? So, but the thing is, he's only, if I have to think about it, he's only done it for tampering with evidence. So, who actually stabbed her? Or is he somehow related to the stabbing? I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? Somewhere here, right?
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road? I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Garadev's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move? Was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Pete then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in the print. The victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume? Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously, which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. Whew! And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat? Come on. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Rolly. It isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream, a terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out, everything exposed. Let's go! Yay! Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! Yay! Let's go. Exposed him. Order, order, order! What on earth is the meaning of all this? Oh, Rolly, why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it? Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I can't say. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation. For why on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman? And yet, Lord Van Zeek, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from, human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? It's this one. It's this, the warrant card.
Take that!
Oof. I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh yes! It was our very first wedding anniversary. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. When he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. I do feel bad for you, Rolly. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable beat? Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said, it's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh! Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then, it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight, of all nights? Why? I feel like Scotland Yard sucks, man. Why do you want to be in Scotland Yard when, like, literally you don't get paid enough? You literally walk around 20 miles every day. I don't know how much is 20 miles, but what's 20 miles? I'm gonna check right now. Okay, 20 miles is 32 kilometers. That's a lot, okay, for a day. And that too walking. Jesus, man. I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Merchant Street, and then... Aww. Well, this is the first time we've had silence in the courtroom. Aww. I mean, he did tamper with it, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted just that one night to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Rolly. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would have been ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon? Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Rolly, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped you in such a dark place. I am so sorry, Rolly. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total? Oh, 4 it was. Yes, sir, definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garadeb household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand when all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean? Oh well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. Okay. She's already in the victim's hand. So she must have picked it up when... in the book flew out from the Garadeb household, and when she was picking up, somebody stabbed her. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the two people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. I feel like we have to do more investigation, to be very honest. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. Oh, my lord? Yes, Lord Van Zeeks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Oh, okay, now I feel bad for both of them. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Alright then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Huh? Never again, sir? You mean... Oh, you mean to say... Leave. Now. This trial is not yet over. Sir! Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. So he's not losing his job. So he does have a soft spot. Oh. But I'm happy now. I was feeling like immense sadness for Rolly and Pat, but they're fine. Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transferring the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here, principally that the accused, Mr. Suseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime. But we need more information.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Oh wait, also, my brain, I don't know, all these thoughts happen to me like in the middle of the night when I'm thinking about games. The name Suseki Natsume was like very, I don't know why, it sounded so similar, like familiar to me. And then it clicked with me, I think in Persona 3, one of the Persona games. They talk about like this line of the moon is beautiful tonight. I've seen that in a lot of, not just Persona, but in other works of fiction or like any kind of art form, but like the moon is beautiful tonight, which means I love you. And that line was written by Suseki Natsume, I think. And I'm assuming they're talking about this, I mean, because they're taking a lot of historical like figures like Sherlock Holmes and all that. So I'm assuming that Suseki Natsume of the one in this trial is the Suseki Natsume who wrote that line. I was like, holy shit, I do know this guy. I was like, who is this stupid guy? And I was like, no, I know this guy. It's that guy who wrote that line. And I was like, oh my god. Now that we know the truth, okay. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Van Zeeks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime. Oh shit, I don't know this. I'm assuming it's Mrs. Garadeb because she threw the knife, so it could have on the lady's back like this while she was bending down. That's the only person. I thought we were going to find somebody new. Mrs. Garrett.
Take that!
I'm sorry. The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Garrett. Me? Me? Oh dearie me!
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garrett, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garrett. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-top hinge casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garrett. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? Ah! I don't recall it. Don't lie! Seriously! Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all the regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4. Oh, really? Oh! Lord Vanzix, thank you! Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. Let's go! If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how do you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Mrs. Garrett. Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. This should say, like Lord Van Zeek said, this should be a lesson to not throw stuff at your husband during a misunderstanding, that too. Oh, the poor woman. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh! The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm going to have to testify? Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Unearthed. I don't know. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrett. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. Woo, let's go! Whew. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I am here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Kazuma! You should see me now. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes. My name is Joanne Gaidep. And I am, well, I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid, or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh dearie me. Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John. Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. I'll hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you're John Gaidep? Yes, sir. Former 2nd Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action now, living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Ah, well, yes, quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and precisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. Witness testimony. The Battle of Gairdev. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked her candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window opened. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'll notice if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that body thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'd have a job proving it, I think. It sounded as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Oh, Mr. Gairdev is such a nice person, man. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of the jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Manzeeks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Narhodo. The only evidence we have is the tip of the knife is broken on the tip of the knife. So yeah, yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination. Okay, we can do this. Press.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was stuck into the basic pages of a book belonging to Mr. Gairdev. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Gairdev found a note discovering her husband's little secret, and she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide off the mark anyway. And a likely story. These waters run very deep. Bro, you have to believe him now. He's literally on your side right now, and his name was not even on the note. It was some other person's name. And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face? Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpets. Okay, wait, I've already read it. I'm reading it again. And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it? The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see. The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although that little moustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. Defendant Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of this income to buy books. Well, anyway, the point is I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough. Okay, let's press this.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire, as far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. No! That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did you know I was thinking that? So please, cast your mind back and try to remember. Was the knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall, but I feel I must point out that I am no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin. Pursue.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Gardep! Don't shoot. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Did your wise remarks just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the whole thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall. Ouch! And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every ball. Ah! Good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law. Oh dearie me, ever so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of that onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. And it would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. And anyway, I managed to bandage the thing up for now. Ha, you're one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important. The defense believes Mr. Gaidep's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Well, I don't see why not. Oh dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. What? Bro, he's just asking for the pipe, bro. It's nothing romantic in any sense is that. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Okay, Mr. Gaidep's pipe. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Sato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. We're doing it right now. Okay, let's check this. It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garadeb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garadeb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that or he can't afford to replace it. Oh, it's here. Oh my god, it's here. I can't. Oh no, bro, it's here. Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. Oh my god, yeah. Let's go back. We got our evidence. Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garadeb. Now if we could return to the crux of the matter, what can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Okay, let's ask this.
Hold it!
Sorry, would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see, pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle, you know the sort of thing. It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too, and then there's my leather work. Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place, and we have dozens of the things. They sell them at the market sometimes, 20 for the price of 19, needless to say, I snapped them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at a meal times 2 instead of a knife and fork. Now, Joanne, we don't want people thinking I'm some kind of savage. Ah! Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. It's entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witnesses. So, if that body thing the victim really was one of the knives, you'll have a job proving it, I think. Okay, so we'll probably have to press here. Present here. So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless we can produce proof. Even though there is no other credible possibility if Mr. Natsume is innocent.
Objection!
You forget, my Nipponese friend, that it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who had handled the knife. But I suppose wizardry like this is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo. What? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin, or so they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice. Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation. But for now, we should have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion that this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. Ugh! If only I could transplant this whole incident several years in the future. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm partly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried that it was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Seki-san's sake, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Okay, I'm not sure what do I have to present though. I'm like, do I present the knife or do I present the pipe? I feel like it has to be the... Wait, it could be this as well. Oh god, I don't know what to choose. See, I'm thinking of presenting the fragment of metal first, because then if I present the knife, they'll be like, yo, why are you showing me this knife? I think I'll show this.
Objection!
Okay, I think it's correct. Mr. Gardepp, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? Used to call me Dead-Eye Deb back in the regiment, of course, but that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must be very dizzy. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Gardepp's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? Okay, let's go. I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Let's go. Knife time, knife time, knife time. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Take that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's pack. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in the victim's bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Gardepp's pipe. Ah! Ah! Oh! We finally see Lord Van Zeek's breakdown. Good grief, Lord Van Zeek's. I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match. Good golly gosh! Oh, she's still standing on a box. I didn't even realize that. Order, order, order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? Sir Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord, the crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Gardepp's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. You know, you're really lucky that the victim didn't die, but she is in a comatose thing, which is still really bad. But like, she didn't die, so I guess you wouldn't get charged for murder, not murder, manslaughter, I guess. Oh dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Gardepp flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Gardepp, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord. Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Gardepp's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. Ah! In short, this knife which fell from the window of the Gary Depp's house is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh! Oh dear! Oh no! Man, his whole coat is burned. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Holy shit! Why are you objecting? A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, it's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What? Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is the inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... Ah! That's right, you silly little man. Now, Joanne, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? The book fell, so she went to pick it up, and then it lodged in her back. Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back, falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. Ah! Grinosuke, let's hurry it up, man. We literally know why. Order! Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Well, you don't have to keep slapping your husband. He's lost for words. Look! I knew it. I never liked his theory in the first... Man, the public is so easily swayed. And this is even true in real life. It would appear the defense has made rather a spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. No, Renoski, we got this, bro. It's the book. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Bro, stop dramatic. Think, look at the records. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Mrs. Zato, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed. No, bro, I got it, dude. Ooh, let's go. This is inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness! Utter madness! Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. Oof, let's go. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... Where is the one where... Wait. Yeah, this one.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Garadev's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know now, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. But she was already holding it, that's why he put it on her hand. That's true. However, as part of this testimony, Constable Pete made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Oh dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadev household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw. Yes, Mrs. Garadev, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens! And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at the same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Seki Natsume. Well, I never! It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. Ah! And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Let's go! Breakdown? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadev, the very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Poor Mrs. Garadev, I don't feel any sympathy for her, to be very honest. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book. And I threw the knife as well. John dear, it's alright, I know. I'm ever so sorry, Atishi apologized. Truly, I'm sorry. Okay, that's funny. Oh, dude, oh my god, he's gonna die. Hey, you held on long for a very bad knee, dude. Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Garadev? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe now she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We have been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful! The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Are you okay, Soseki? Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. Let's go, Soseki! No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him. Bro is super paranoid, and I don't blame him, bro. You nearly got for attempted murder or whatever. Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh! Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we have reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say, I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Yay!
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Let's go! Oof, we're finally done. Very well, Mr. Soseki Natsume, I hereby pronounce you not guilty! Woo! Finally, oh god, that was a long ass trial. But it was so fun, man. Oh god, I'm obsessed. I want to continue playing the next case, but my throat is actually dying. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh yes, Lord Sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Oh, man. I better get paid nicely. 20th February, 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey. Defendants antechamber. Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course! Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last! I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Hey, heedy, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Oh, I'm pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that then? Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that! Lovely, lawyer, locum, lawyer! Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, you, locum lawyer, gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we are very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. Sholmes! I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh! The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. Dude, we are already done. It's just finished. What? No! Then my haste was in vain? Ugh! It's you! Herlock Sholmes! Herlock Holmes, I think. Have you met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Ah! Had she been taken to hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Bro is guilt-tripping Natsume. I mean, it is true, but dude. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. Give him the pass, Toseki. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind now then. What was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I'm sorry, really. But that was quite priceless. Poor Soseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you have had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, what are you? I'm still cursed by the spirits, and now by the Reaper. Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. I haven't forgotten, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! Why did you hit me? With the perfectly executed Susato takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh! It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse? That's not it at all! Yeah, but what if you go sink into the bottom of the sea on a ship? The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. Please, Reaper, don't fucking kill Natsume. A work of literature by Seki-san could be an interesting read. And what about Mrs. Zato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? What about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? Ah, but what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for it with the floor, a ceiling and walls. Great. And of course, I'll be happy to leave behind a cursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it, if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself, though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to taking lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome with words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it's settled. Iris has prepared a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume, I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you and yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long. Somebody is happy. Let's go. We're gonna stay with Sholmes and Iris. Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume, it's been a privilege meeting you two. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come here to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I have little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. Wait, we're gonna leave Suzato back? And so, with Suzeki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Oh, this is the place. Oh, it's very big. 20th February, 4:41 p.m., the attic room. I would love this space as a room, my own room. So this is to be our new office, yes. Our office. I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So my dear fellows, do you like the place? Oh, new outfit! He looks awesome. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good, I am pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. My throat is dying. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at this premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is... Sorry? London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Oh, that was very ominous sounding, Sholmes. Oh god. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke, but it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. To be continued? Okay, the end. Oh, finally. My throat is dying. I'm dying. Let's go. Episode 5. Huh? Oh, episode 5. Oh, then we'll reach the great Ace Attorney, like the next part. Oh, how many more is there? Okay, we're done with this case. I want to continue, but my throat is dying. But it was so much fun. Holy shit, this game is amazing. I love the Ace Attorney Chronicles. I'm so excited that we have Miles Edgeworth and Apollo Justice left. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Ah!